Yeah, what's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Every week, something new and different. Yep, good one. Happy Monday, everyone. Really excited for tonight's show. Welcome to Ginger Runner Live. The family is together. You guys are included. We're excited that you're spending that time tonight with us. We are joined by a guest of the show, a frequent guest of the show. We've actually had him on a number of times, but it's always a good show when we have Jamil on because he's extremely knowledgeable in all things ultra. The guy has done some of the hardest races on earth and survived to tell the tale. He's a race director. He knows all the ins and outs of what it takes to put on some of the best events, Air Viper running, and has an amazing crew that does that. He's also a filmmaker, has been vlogging a lot of his training over the last year plus, really going hardcore at it over the last year. So we have a lot to talk about tonight with Jamil Coury, who's joining us. And we might even touch on this big thing that's happening.
Something might be happening
called the Barkley Marathons, which I'm pretty excited to talk about. Let's be honest. Let's be totally honest. So welcome, everyone. Grab your adult beverage or beverage of choice and get ready. Ginger Runner Live, episode number 159, begins right now.
Ginger Runner.
Yeah, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 159. I'm excited for tonight's show because we get to have a friend on, a friend that's been on the show multiple times, extremely knowledgeable in all things running long distances, whether ultra. I mean, he's done everything. In fact, he even did the New York Marathon this last year, I think kind of on a whim, or maybe he had it scheduled, but he wasn't sure if he was going to do it, and then he showed up and did it. But we're going to talk to him about all of these races, some of these crazy races that he's done in the last few months. He's also a race director, Air Viper running in Arizona, and puts on some of the best events in the country, and has traveled the world, vlogged it, basically making videos and documenting his journeys across the globe. And talking about filmmaking, but really the heart of tonight, I think, because it's all relevant, because the timing happens to coincide perfectly with this event that is known to many as the impossible, one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult event in the world, called the Barkley Marathons, which we have an affinity for. We were there last year shooting and spectating, but we're going to talk all about that tonight with our guest. Welcome him back to the show, Mr. Jamil Coury. Yay!
Hey, thank you guys so much. Really great to be back on.
It's nice to have Jam on the show, finally. You've done, since we've last had you on, you have done so much, man. Not just running related, but business related. Can you tell us a little bit about the goings on? I mean, you run a business, it's race directing, you put on races, but also you have like a production team, and kind of what are the ins and outs of this giant conglomerate that you've been building here over the last year?
Yeah, thanks. I don't know. Number one, we just want to produce, I guess, really cool content. That goes beyond just the races we do. That was a big passion of mine for quite a while. And then I just got hit with some kind of spark. I wanted to share a little bit of my own running through film. And then it's kind of morphed into something bigger than that. You know, we like doing some of the race recaps of our own races, but then also filming other events and kind of doing some fun, more creative stuff that I didn't really know I had that sort of an outlet or a desire to do that, but it's something that I really enjoy.
And before we even get further down this road, I totally am spacing. We do have a live chat room tonight. I've been reading like everyone's comments. I'm like, oh yeah, you guys, Kim.
So as always, I'm in the chat room. So if you guys have questions for Jamil, please ask them. The chat room is like blowing up tonight, and a few of you have said, I've already asked a question, did you see it? I haven't. I'm trying to catch up in the chat room. So if you asked a question before we got going, please ask it again, and I'll do my best to snag it out of the chat room. John Chamberlain in the chat room already says, I might pee a little, I'm so excited.
Wow.
So this is going to be an exciting
show because it literally is. It's Mountain Outhouse and Ginger Runner Live combining forces finally for an epic show. And we
Ginger Outhouse.
Ginger. That just sounds disgusting. No one wants to see that, but Mountain Ginger, that's even worse.
We have tons of our regular viewers in the chat room. Raul, Alyssa, Randy, Todd, Jeff, Danuch is in the chat room tonight.
Nice, Danuch.
Yeah. So
fresh off a little weekend of glamping. So just a reminder, if you guys have any questions during tonight's show, drop them in the chat room. Yes. Kim will pull them aside and we will ask them of Jamil. We also have a post show tonight with Jamil, which will be real fun for Patreon supporters. But let's get back to this. So you have this spirit and desire to create good content, and kind of how did that change for you from having the passion and the desire to actually creating and executing? Because you've been doing it for a number of years, but in the last year, I mean, you turned it up to 11. Things definitely changed. Was there something that happened?
Yeah, I think I kind of didn't have access to my YouTube channel for a little while there, but I kind of regained access to Run Steep Get High, and I had wanted to do something like this, kind of do a vlog or record my journey for a while. And it kind of started a couple years back when I got my first GoPro. It was right before the Hard Rock 100 when I paced Timothy Olson back in 2014.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Yeah, I had fun. I had been making videos before that. Like, I've been doing that actually since I was pretty young, just like videoing my adventures, like hiking and canyoneering. I've got some pretty embarrassing ones on my personal channel, you know, but it's just been a process and an evolution. And it took me a long time to feel comfortable talking in front of a camera. I think it sounds like a simple thing, but I'm sure, as you know, it's not easy, and you have to kind of get over that. And it took me probably a year or more. Just, I would say something into a camera and then I would look at it and try and edit it. And I felt embarrassed. And then I kind of, I don't know, eventually I just didn't care anymore and I got over it. And it's been this really amazing journey where I've been able to share some of my perspective on my runs, and it seems like a lot of people get a lot out of it, which is really cool. Like, they get motivated or inspired by the content I put out there, and that just makes me want to make more of it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think what you do well, and it's something about communicating the truth in the sense that it's when I discovered it as well. You don't want to lie. You basically, you need to be as honest and truthful as possible. And I know with your vlogs, which have been daily and sometimes not so daily, but you know, it's obvious that they take a lot of work and take a lot of effort. But there's one thing that's been a great through line, and that's that you've been truthful. You know, if there's something on your mind, or if you're feeling like crap, you're honest about it. Was there a moment that you felt, you know, I'm in the middle of a race, I feel like garbage? You pull out the camera and you either say, hey, look, this race is amazing, or you be honest and say, hey, I'm feeling like crap. But did you have that moment? I had one of those moments. So I'm curious if you had a moment very similar where you're like, discovered something.
I'm trying to think. I don't know. I feel like I'm just a pretty authentic person in general. Like, I just kind of tell it like it is. And I also don't care what people think, really. So like, I'm fine putting out just who I am. I don't need to sugarcoat it, really. But I've also found, like, I guess maybe that's like a different thing on videos. I think you've talked about it before, actually. Like, I was actually watching, I think your guys' recap show from the end of 2016 last night, and you're talking about how, like, a lot of people maybe on YouTube or making videos, they only put out the positives, so it just looks like they have this perfect life. But I don't know, I've never felt like that, really. Like, I think it's important to show the ups and downs, because sometimes that makes a better story. I think a lot of times it does, actually. And I think some of my best stories as a runner have been through my failures or through things that have happened to me that were less than ideal, where, like, you know, I'm throwing up on top of Handy's Peak. Like, that's more interesting than just if everything went well.
I completely agree. And you look at any of the library from Ginger, like all the videos that I've made over the last 6 years, and the ones that are viewed the most, or at least received the most well, it's not a good sentence, are the ones where I am honest, where I'm showing the suffering and I'm showing the struggle that I'm actually going through in the moment. I'm not sugarcoating it. You know, maybe I'm trying to, in my mind, to get out of the slump, but the reality is, you show those moments of weakness, and people can relate, because very few of us are elite runners. You have the ability to keep up with elite runners, as many of your videos have proven, where you're able to actually keep up physically with them. But not everyone on the planet can do that, right? And so I think having that truthfulness and that honesty is.
You said you had a moment. What was that moment for you specifically?
It was early on. I think it was one of the first races that I documented. It was me pulling the camera out of, at that time it wasn't a GoPro. I think it was a little point and shoot that I had just kept in a pocket of my handheld. And I remember pulling it out and going, well, I felt like crap. And I was either going to say, look at this amazing view and I'm crushing it, or, you know, whatever. But then I kind of went, but that's not the truth. I feel like garbage. I feel like absolute garbage. And I remember recording that. And then when I was in the edit room later to edit that into the movie, my instinct was to not put it in. And I eventually just went, no. That's more important than I think the success of the story. So I ended up keeping it in there, I believe. This was back in like 2010 or 11. Yeah. And that to me, it was just like, yeah, you're a middle of the pack dude. You're going to have down moments during races, before races, after races. You got to talk about it. That's one thing that I've been loving about the Steep Life vlogs, is that you've been super honest and being truthful to you and to the training and stuff. We got live questions, tons of live questions.
Piggyback on it, I think actually Timothy Olson, when he ran in 2014, if you remember his race, he didn't have a great race at all. Like, he suffered. And I think that's probably why that video was so popular. And that story is because he had, you know, not a great race, but he persevered through that. And kind of, because I was pacing him, I was able to capture some of those moments on film. So maybe subconsciously knowing like how powerful that story was of his is maybe why I share my low moments too.
It works, man. It absolutely works. And people can relate to it because it's real and everyone goes through it. You know, not everyone has a perfect day. In fact, if you do have a perfect day, it's usually rare.
Right.
Yeah. So again, we have lots of live questions, so I do not want to ignore.
Is blowing up tonight.
Go for it, babe.
There's just two very similar questions. This is from Charvel in the chat room. Jamil, in one of your recent vlogs, you mentioned your lack of motivation and very minimal running for about a month. How did you turn that around? Any tips or advice for someone in a similar boat? And piggybacking on that is very similar. Katie Nelson in the chat room asks, Jamil, are you willing to talk more about your recent hiatus and period when you weren't really wanting to run?
This is something that I wanted to touch on with Jamil, because in his Steep Life vlogs, if you have not already, go check out the YouTube channel Run Steep Get High, just because he does have these videos, which are mostly daily. But there was a period where, Jamil, you took a break, and I'm really curious about that period. What was, transpiring? Did you just need to take time away from running? Was running causing stresses or, stuff like that? If you want to talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't filming a lot because it was just a lot of work, as you know. Like, I did the first 30 days of my Steep Life episodes a year ago, almost daily. And then I just kind of sprinkled them in here and there. But I mean, part of it, I guess, is having to do with my son. And like recently, it was a period of time when I was actually starting to kind of get more time with him. So that definitely took a piece of my time. So kind of working through that and getting more access to him and spending more time with him, that was like more important than running for a period of time. So that took precedence, but also I think I was just really stressed with work as well. We had like a lot of events and not everything's going as smoothly as you'd hope. So like just a lot on my mind, I think, and it just kind of seemed selfish to be out there running. So I just kind of had to take the focus away from that for a while and just let it go, because I wasn't stoked about it. It seemed like, what am I doing? Like, I don't deserve to go out on a run right now. Like, I have to deal with this issue and I should be spending my time here. So I just kind of let that go, which I think was the right decision at the time, even though, yeah, it's not great for like upcoming races, but it's not everything about life,
I respect the honesty, and I can absolutely relate 100%. I feel the chat room is already nodding their heads in agreement. A lot of people are in total agreement of needing to take a break from time to time. And you and I have talked about this before on the show. We're big fans of people like Casey Neistat and people who are putting their life out there. And in his case, he's putting it out daily with videos. But you, having also done that, gone down the route of not only training, putting in the effort for huge efforts, big mountain races, but also making videos about it and documenting all of that, that takes major time and effort and energy. So I'm sitting here going, man, I can absolutely understand that taking some time away might be necessary for Jamil. It might suck for viewers who might want to see your videos every day, but for Jamil, I think that's awesome. So while you're going through that period, or even now, like you're back, was there anything that you were able to do to kind of get the stoke back? Because people lose stoke pretty often, you know?
Yeah.
How do you get it back?
Sometimes like kind of hitting bottom, you know, like gets you to turn things around. I think that happened to me a little bit. Like I was just getting within, you know, a month or so before Barkley coming up here. And I'm like, what is going on? Like I felt really injured and stressed and kind of hit a breaking point. So I like, and you can see this in, I think, episode like 82. I don't know what it was, but when I kind of started things back up again, I had been delaying talking to my coach, and finally I get him on the phone and we just like decide to like part ways, that was the best thing to do. And that kind of was a turning point for me. It was like I didn't have that pressure anymore. And I just wanted to get out there and have fun again, because I wasn't having fun while running at all. So, and like part of that too is I had missed doing the videos as well. So I thought this might be a good time to record and document this while also using it as a bit of an accountability to get me going again. So I kind of I was like, all right, I'm going to do the videos again. Like I'm going to start making them every day, and I'm going to start running again every day, and I'm going to see where that gets me. And yeah, I think it worked. I mean, I got back out there and I was excited and motivated again, and just having fun. And I don't know, making videos every day, you're kind of forced to try and make a story or do something interesting with your day. Whereas
Absolutely.
for, I don't know, a few weeks there, I just, you know, laid around and didn't do anything and sat on the couch or whatever. So I was like, well, I can't just sit on the couch and film it and put it out there. So I kind of like, well, I'm going to go and just do this 3-mile run, but I'm going to run down to this river and jump in it. And like, that'll be cool, like to show someone. And then it just kind of like day by day, it just kind of got better. And then soon I was just doing it because I loved it and having a blast again. So
it's, I'm sitting here nodding my head, man, because daily vlogs, they're difficult. They're really difficult daily videos. I've done it years ago. I did it in another life before running, before Ginger Runner, before all that stuff. And it's a difficult thing because sometimes life isn't interesting. I mean, sometimes your day just isn't interesting, you know, and it's not because of any exterior force or anything like that, but sometimes you just want to wake up and lay on the couch and watch Netflix or something, and that's okay, but that makes for a terrible vlog. And so this last year, I seeing the steep life and seeing these videos that you've been putting out every day, I was like, you know what, I want to try it again, because maybe there's something about this trail, because I love watching your videos. I'm fascinated by it. I'm like, okay, trail running is interesting. So I've been dabbling with the ginger bits, but with the idea of I only do it when interesting things are happening, so I don't stress myself out or stress Kim out or am up until 4 a.m. editing every single day. And I loved it. And I forgot how fun it is to put out new content every single day. I bet, do you get that sense of reward every time you upload a new steep life?
Oh yeah. I mean, I love it. And maybe it's a problem. I don't really know if it's a problem, but I get kind of addicted to like the views and the comments. So yeah. I want to keep that in check to some regards, because I don't want that to become like the guiding light, but it's cool to like see like, oh, this one did really well, or like, oh, people really connected with this particular episode or with this scene that I shot. And that's really fun to do. And it's funny that you say, because like there has been some days, because I have been doing it, I think almost every day for a month now. Granted, I am getting help editing, which I think you know that right now. So I've only, like I have someone else who does like the majority of the edits now, which that's the only way that I can make this happen. And so like we work pretty closely, and like I kind of like, I'm still involved, so I'm helping to set up the scenes and everything like that, but he's kind of executing it. So that saves me the couple hours every day, which I just can't afford to do right now. But some days like yeah, I don't have anything filmed, and I kind of have to make it up at the end of the day. And some days I just sat down with the camera and make something out of nothing, and it's still fun. So.
And it's still great as a viewer. It's super entertaining. Every time you're like, well, I'm going to get philosophy. You'll get some Jamil philosophy. You'll get some training tidbits. You'll get some gear stuff, and you'll get epic drone shots of Arizona. You have such perfect weather to be running with the Osmo and the drone. And I'm like, man, because we're moving back to the Northwest. So in my mind, I'm going, all my gear is just going to get destroyed, and we're not going to be able to film anything because it's so wet up there. So keep it going, man. It really is. It's rewarding for the audience, and obviously I can relate to the getting addicted to the views and the comments and stuff, because it really does that daily grind.
And I think that's something like anybody can relate to. Like when you post a photo on Instagram or something, you're kind of like, likes.
Where are we at today? And with the daily vlog, you put so much effort into filming all day. It's really strange how life is a little bit different when you're videoing each day, because you are kind of telling a story. In your mind, you're thinking of the story as opposed to
just living.
Just living, which is so strange.
Right.
It's so strange.
Yeah.
And which is also interesting that Casey is now vlogging again. When I saw that, I was like, of course he is, because it's probably an addiction, you know, and it probably is that sense of immediate reward.
He probably felt lonely after he stopped.
He probably like super lonely, like, oh, no one's commenting. So let's talk a little bit about like Mountain Outpost and Air Viper running and kind of the stuff that's going on behind the scenes. You mentioned that you do have someone helping you edit a little bit, but these shows that you're putting out are fantastic. You have multiple pieces of content coming out every single week. Where were the ideas coming from this, and how did you pick your staff, and did you put out, you know, feelers of I need editors or that sort of thing?
It happened really organically. A good friend of mine who's a really great runner, Michael Carson, he's our like full-time video edit guy and filmmaker, I guess, videographer. And it's not like he did this for a living. He worked at Whole Foods, but he would like make some race videos and use his GoPro. And he's kind of like, I think we collabed last year on our Mesquite Canyon video. And he went out and filmed with his GoPro. I did a drone shot. And like I went over to his house and gave him the drone shot so he could make a little edit. And it was like, this is pretty cool. And he's like, man, I wish I could do this for a living. And I was like, well, I wish that we could have better videos for our races. And so we kind of looked at each other and we're like, let's try and make something work here. So we hired him. And a couple months after we hired him, he started just doing like some race videos and recaps. And then I think he really enjoyed that show, Good Mythical Morning, if you've seen it on YouTube.
Of course, yeah. Rhett and Link, their buddies.
Yeah, Rhett and Link. So he's been watching that show over like years, and turned me onto it. And I was like, this is pretty cool. Like, it's cool, like the banter they have back and forth. And if you don't know the show, it's like two guys in a studio and they do these wacky challenges basically every day. And they're really funny together. We're like, man, we should do something like this, but for like trail running or ultra running. And we started brainstorming different ideas and concepts, and we settled upon like the mystery drop bag idea amongst like others, like Will It Goo and some other things. And we're trying to think like who would be a good co-host for this. And we finally settled upon Skylar, and just kind of just went out one day and just tried it and made it, and people seem to dig it.
It works great. The chemistry is awesome. The editing is fantastic. I mean, it's hilarious. I feel like a lot of people are now getting their news through it, which I think is that's what's so awesome.
And then the Outhouse was something else. Like that came from Mountain Outpost. So like the news show that we do now, I don't even know where that one started with, but we wanted to do some kind of like roast or a satire of our sport. And we just kind of like, the first one, if you've ever seen it, it's ridiculous. The very first episode of Mountain Outhouse. I included a little clip from your past days in the internet, but
I didn't see that one. What episode?
It's the very first Mountain Outhouse.
How did I not see that clip? I'm like, what is it? What is it? And no one's mentioned it to me.
That's okay. It can stay buried, but
There's a lot of gems out there.
Yeah, well, yeah, I have no shame.
It could be a lot of
I've kept all my videos online. Like, I have no shame in that. It's a part of my history that I would like to forget, but the internet never forgets. So why try to force them? So I don't know what you pulled.
So, but the idea was I wanted to do a fake news show. And so I said I was going to do a beer news program. So I did 4 beers and 4 news stories, and I proceeded to get really drunk by the end. And the show has since evolved. So now it's like a scripted show, and it's kind of witty. And yeah, I love doing it every week. It's fun.
It's great, man. Don't ever stop. And I know people will say that, and they probably comment that all the time. Like, oh, this is my favorite thing every week. Don't stop. Don't. I know that it's probably easier said than done, but now I have to go hunting for the clip. Let's get to some of these live audience questions because you've been pulling.
Elaine in the chat room says, lol, I saw it, GR. I wonder what it is.
Everyone in the chat room saying that they saw it. I'm the only one apparently that didn't see it, which means it can't be that great. If I'm going to be totally honest, Jamil.
Because of like how your content was?
Yeah, because my content was terrible back then.
The first show, I mean, I look back on that one and I'm like, it's funny, but it's like it's really bad. So anyways.
Oh, great. Thanks. I appreciate that.
I mean, like my performance was really bad.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't doubt that mine is as well. Go ahead and let's grab a question here.
Yeah, we've got lots of questions, and I want to give a big shout out because there are a lot of new viewers in the chat room.
Sweet.
So if you guys aren't familiar with the show layout, if you guys have questions for our guest, please ask them in the chat room. Let's see here. A question from Cameron in the chat room. Jamil, do you feel that being an RD has made you a stronger runner? And how has your experience as an ultra runner influenced your job as an RD?
I think it definitely has made me a stronger runner because I see a lot of what people do wrong. And I also have to stay up really long hours. So it helps with like sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
And me as an RD helping me to be a better runner. Is that the other way around? I don't know. I guess I just, or what was the other part of the question?
You want to get back to that? Yeah, it's just I had half a beer in my mouth or half a drink.
Do you feel that being an RD has made you a stronger runner? And that's kind of this. Actually, it's the question is kind of asked the same way. Like,
I think
how has your experience as an ultra runner influenced your job as an RD?
Yeah,
so it's
let's
kind
go
of,
that.
Well, I think like races, I try and go and run races where I'm going to learn something or I'm going to see something done differently. So I take that back to my own events and try and make them better.
It's
so
awesome.
Consciously, when I'm doing a race, I'm always thinking about, hey, how did they do this? How did they organize this? And see if I can improve.
You know, so we talked briefly about the steep life and how getting the running stoke back has been good. I want to start diving into the experience you're about to undertake. The Barkley Marathons is coming up, which is one of these events that is of lore, is easily one of the most. I have not done a single foot of this event, but I know it is probably the hardest event on earth. Just seeing the faces and the eyes of people who have attempted this coming in after loop 4, you see that and you go, I will never, ever attempt this. You've attempted it a number of times now. You've actually gotten you've gotten to the 5th loop once, correct?
No.
4th loop.
4th loop.
And you ended up sleeping a majority of the day during that loop.
Right. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry I have to do this.
Yeah, it's okay. I don't know where he's going. He's probably grabbing something. Here. He's either grabbing something. It's either going to be
this is
hilarious or it's going to be bad.
My legs have been burning this whole show because I have this. If you've seen the episodes, I have this rash. I have to put this on right now because
there has been multiple questions about how is your rash doing.
Sorry, I'm just going to spray my legs right now. Because it's not doing well.
Okay.
I don't even know if you can hear us. You can't hear us. It's okay. I don't think. Oh, he could hear us because his headphone jack was unplugged. But Jamil, just explain to those who maybe are new to the show or new to what just happened. What are you dealing with currently?
I'm dealing with like some sort of poison oak, or it might be like a desert poisonous plant. And on one of my runs a couple weeks ago, I got this on my legs, and it's just like persisting. Like it's a rash that's all over my legs. It was blistering, and it's like spread now to my arms. I've been to the doctor. I'm taking all kinds of things for it, and it's just like fairly persistent. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, the good news is that this weekend, the Briar should cut open your legs entirely. So I think the rash will be the least of your worries.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that once I get out there, other things are going to hurt more than the rash.
Yeah. Everyone wants to see the rash. And a part of me is like, no, I don't know any humans that really want to see a rash, but I'm sure Jamil would be happy to share it.
I mean, not on the show, but go to maybe I'll put it on my Instagram story after the show.
There you go. Follow Jamil on Instagram and maybe you can see some of his rash because apparently some of you people really want to see it. So let's begin to talk a little bit about the Barkley Marathons. Very, very briefly, and please, Jamil, correct me if I'm wrong. It's an event that takes place in Frozen Head State Park in Tennessee, which is can have some of the craziest and most unpredictable weather. It is put on by a gentleman named Laz, who is a character of his own, an awesome guy, but also very much a character that wants you to hurt. The event itself is 5 loops of a unmarked, untrailed course. You have to search the woods for books and pull pages out of these books. Who knows how many books there's going to be this year, but there's an insane amount of climbing, off-trail scrambling. It's essentially the most difficult race that only 14 humans on Earth have completed. Jamil and I were talking a little bit earlier today. Thousands have attempted this thing, or I'm going to say over 1,000, in between 1,000 and 2,000. I think as Jamil did the math. Somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 people have attempted it. Only 14 humans have ever finished it. 2 of those 14 have finished it more than once. Only 1 person has finished it 3 times. And Jamil, you were saying that no one other than Jared Campbell has finished it since 2013.
Right.
Which is nuts. So Jared Campbell is a badass. He will not be back this year. I think he's like 3 and done, which is which is saying a lot because that's pretty badass. So
Jamil, you had another year and didn't finish too. So
right, and I believe that was because of the fog, because the fog influenced the book location and all sorts of just crazy weather that can influence an entire event. And once one thing goes bad, it feels like it's a snowball because you're out there, you're in the middle of the backcountry with no GPS, by the way, no tracking, no map. You essentially have to find the locations. And I mean, again, I haven't done it. I will never do it. But Jamil, you've attempted it how many times?
Twice.
This will be your 3rd time. Do you feel at all prepared?
Yes and no. I think mentally, yes. Physically, not as much as I had hoped. But this event, like a lot of it is like your years of preparation, your years of running, your years of backcountry travel. Like that's a huge part of it. So like I go into it with a base level of fitness and ability to navigate, which will definitely help me. But like peak fitness, kind of like we talked about earlier, I kind of missed about a month of peak training. And then at the end here with this health issue, I don't know.
I mean, there are very few people that I know that would even attempt this event. There are even fewer people that I know that could complete this event. And it's not because I don't know a lot of tough people. I know a lot of tough people. I am so excited to see that you are going back this year. I know that, do you think your previous 2 experiences there will help and aid you in at least being familiar with the event and being, I guess, a little bit more mentally prepared? Absolutely.
I mean, I have a lot more knowledge of the course now. So I've done 7 loops over 2 years. So that gives me more confidence than the last 2 times, you know. Even the second time I went, I had done 3 loops, but I was on edge the whole time, just trying to figure out the lay of the land. I have much more experience now with the loops out there.
Do you have any strategy going into this? I mean, obviously that you might keep things under wraps, but do you have any strategy as far as staying with certain people or, you know, getting the first loop done and just kind of get your bearings?
Yeah, that kind of changed, I think, when over the last month, when kind of my training didn't go as planned and just these other circumstances. So like, I just want to go out there and just kind of have a good time, I guess, if that's possible. Not really. I don't really have a plan to stay with anyone. I almost feel like I just kind of want to be on my own and go out there to spend time on my own out in the woods. If I happen to link up with some other people and we're going at the same pace and we're in agreement on the route, that's cool. But I'm like totally preparing myself to just go at it by myself, and I'm good with that, you know? Like I'm excited about that, just kind of navigating and going about it. With that being said, I do have a pretty good friend from Arizona going, Michael Versteeg. So I'm excited that he's going as well. And if we happen to link up, that'd be pretty cool.
There's a lot of, I feel like that's kind of the spirit of the event, is that you're not, you know, the teaming up, I think, is more of a, if it happens, it happens. But the reality is you have to be self-sufficient, right? I mean, no GPS allowed. You can't track your mileage. Really, the mileage could be, no one really knows the true mileage. No one knows the true elevation gain.
There's a lot of questions in the chat room about watches.
Yeah.
So GPS watches are not allowed. People are wondering, can you just have like a regular, like
a Timex or something? Like, yeah. Are you allowed that kind of stuff, or any of those kind of comforts?
There's a new rule this year. So in the past, you could have like a simple Timex watch in the past. This year, you were only given a race provided watch.
Oh,
so
boy.
Laz bought, apparently there's like, he bought 40 watches and he'll give you one at the start line. And that's all you get. No cell phones, no GPS, no tracking, no outside watches allowed. He doesn't want any chance that there's a feature that he doesn't know about, you know?
I love it. And then part of I started laughing as soon as you said that, because I'm like, he's going to give you watches without batteries. He's going to he's going to give you watches that just say 12 o'clock and it's blinking. Like, knowing Laz or something, he's going to just mess
you have
with
no
you guys.
sense of time whatsoever.
No sense of time. But I guess I actually really, again, this is an event that I don't want to do. I'm happy to document people attempting it and seeing the faces of misery come in. But it's nothing I ever want to attempt. But I feel like I like that rule. I like that rule that it's an equal playing field for everyone there, right? I mean, you have through hikers, you have people who have completed 100 milers, and everyone's kind of equal, right?
Exactly.
So the last couple of weeks for you, have you focused on getting certain training elements in, or has it been more mental strength building? Like, what's been your plan leading up to it?
Yeah, I mean, when I restarted my training, I hit it pretty hard. I had a 20,000 foot week, which was like out of nowhere. I was doing 15-mile weeks, and then I did an 80-mile week with 20,000 feet of climb. And then the next week I was shooting for 30,000, and I did a 10,000 foot day. But that was like right when my rash was peaking. So that pretty much shut things down. As soon as I did that big day, basically it was like, well, my training's over. So I didn't really run for a whole week because it was so bad. And then only in the last couple of days have I got out there and just gotten a few miles in. So I guess if anything, I'll be well rested and injury free, except for the uncomfortable rash. That's about it.
Are you excited?
Yeah, definitely.
It's one of those questions where I'm like, you could answer either way and it would be correct, right?
I was waiting. I was like,
we got, maybe he say no. Got lots of live questions. I want to make sure we get to some of these before we wrap up the main show here.
Sure. Question from Kimosabi75. Question for Jamil. Is Barkley getting harder each year? And are you scared by the success of others and that Laz will make it harder?
Yes, it gets harder every year. I don't know that I'm scared of the success by others. Like, I always expect it to get harder, and I'm kind of excited about that. I like that the goalpost always gets further away. And I think because that's the beauty of the event. So it just makes you have to train harder, you know? I don't know if it's in the cards for me this year with my circumstances. I don't want to use it as an excuse, but I do know that I'm not as physically prepared as, say, Gary Robbins is. I know what he's done. That's more of the training that I had hoped to get in. I just don't have it in my legs. But again, I'm not going to sit here and write off the race right now because it hasn't even started yet.
You can't. Yeah, not even. And this is, I feel like, just seeing the people that do this event year after year, you know what you're in for. And I think that's half the battle, right? Like, you know, you're going to suffer, you know, it's going to hurt, you know, it's going to suck. You'll be sleep deprived. I feel like that's half the battle. I want to make sure that we also make note that there's people in the chat room that mentioned it, but there's also messages that we've gotten as far as spectating, and don't come, not because of any reason other than
there's nowhere to spectate.
There's nothing to spectate.
Yeah.
And it is highly frowned upon that anyone not associated with the race even attempt to go. And
there's people asking, "Oh, you guys going to give us updates? You guys going to give us updates?" No.
You have to drive like 30, 40 minutes just to even get a bar of signal. So
there is it Keith?
Great biscuits.
Keith Dunn?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Jamil, do you want to mention him?
So follow Keith Dunn on Twitter or hashtag BM100. That's typically the best way to find updates. And again, the only updates camp gets is every 10 to 12 hours when runners come in. Like there's no one out on course. There's no I Run Far with satellite phones. There's no GPS trackers. There's nothing. It's literally, every 12 hours when someone rolls into camp. So yeah.
Or 30 hours.
You got to wait for the stories to kind of roll out next week or beyond.
It's kind of one of those, again, our first experience was last year, and it was surprising. It was awesome. It was incredible, but it was also one of those things where you won't hear this, even from people who were attempting it. You wouldn't hear the stories that really wow, changed you until 1 or 2 weeks after the event when they started to write it out and stuff. So yeah, don't bother coming. Jamil, are you going to be bringing camera? Are you going to be filming any of your experience?
I haven't really asked Laz if filming is allowed out on the loops. So I don't know I can't see him really allowing it. The only thing I would want to do really, because I wouldn't want to film the course, but if I could film maybe my thoughts a couple times a loop, that'd be kind of cool. But if he doesn't allow cameras, then obviously I won't have one. I'm going to have camera equipment with me, so I'm going to film pre and post race. But yeah, I might beg you to film me in between the loops a little bit here and there.
And just to make sure everyone's clear, I have permission from Laz because last year I got special permission from Laz to film Gary's attempt. That was an unfinished project because Gary got through the 5th loop about halfway through and had to bail. I will be dropping a trailer for this Barkley movie in the next couple of days. I'll just put that out there. And I will be going back this year to document Gary once again. And of course, because there's so little to do during the entire process, Jamil, don't worry. You will be on camera anytime that you come in. Because that's of course, that's easy for me to do.
Appreciate
and
it.
There's very specific instructions for anyone. Well, one, if you are even thinking about coming, don't. That's a specific instruction from Laz himself. And then also, as someone who's filming and has permission from Laz, I am only allowed to film at camp. And I think one other destination, I cannot film any of the course. I can't. I am in total agreement. The last thing I want to do is do that. So
when we were there to take photos or anything, everything is all unposted.
You have to have to check with people. Is this okay? Is this okay?
Yeah.
That's why following, what Jamil said, following Keith Dunn is I believe, Jamil, you just retweeted Keith's Twitter handle. For some reason, he was the only one that has signal last year at camp, which was amazing. He was tweeting and everything. And we're like, what? How did you do that? Let's get a couple more live questions.
So a couple comments. Casey Lichty is in the chat room.
Casey
says, I can't even imagine running Barkley. The race is one of a kind. Jamil, you are a beast. Good luck. We'll be cheering you on. And we also have Alicia Vargo, who is my coach, in the chat room. And Alicia says, Jamil, the Vargo household will be cheering you on. Best wishes.
Thanks, guys. Thank you all.
And if there's any opportunity for us to update via Twitter or something like that, we would, and we would let everyone know exactly how Jamil's doing, or if there's stories that come in and stuff like that. Jamil, you have another question? Do you want
to take some questions?
Let's do a couple questions, and then we'll do more in the post show. Okay. But yeah, let's go ahead and do a couple more.
Question from Pete in the chat room. Jamil, how do you train for the navigational challenges at Barkley?
Great question.
Me personally, I don't know that I really have to. I'm naturally pretty good at that kind of stuff. Like my mind I don't know what the term for it is, but I can see a trail once, or I just kind of have a good sense of direction, I guess. But I've also been learning orienteering since I was a kid, like in Boy Scouts. So I kind of know how to use a map and compass. I would say if you are looking to improve that, take an orienteering class, or they also have orienteering style races. That would be a great way to get your feet wet if you have never learned anything like that before.
Actually, I had a couple friends do an orienteering race just this last weekend, and it looked awesome because you might be the fastest runner, but you could be the worst orienteer. And it's incredible how some of these people just know exactly how to navigate certain areas and read the symbols and stuff like that. So do people show up to Barkley that maybe are lacking a certain skill, and would that hurt them in some respects?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, I mean, everyone comes into it at a different level. I mean, I know Michael Wardian, I saw he was taking some orienteering classes recently, because I don't think I don't know if that's like a normal skill of his, but it seemed like he was trying to work on that and brush up on his skills there, which is pretty cool.
It'll be a real interesting event this year, that's for sure. We're going to kind of wrap up the main show, I think, with Jamil, because there's a lot of remaining questions here with the live chat that we're going to ask him here in the post show. I want to thank everyone who is tuning in live tonight for jumping in here and joining us, and Jamil. It's awesome to have Jamil back on the show. There's still lots to talk about. I still want to pick his brain on like camera gear and camera filming and vlogging and all that sort of stuff. So we're going to be doing that in the post show, which takes place directly after this main show. Mm-hmm. The post shows are now for Patreon supporters. We, both Kim and myself, have YouTube channels that are supported by you, the viewers. It's much like PBS in the sense that we're able to do this full time and create content on a weekly basis, multiple pieces of content each week, because of you, because of the viewers and the viewer support. So if you would like to join us in the post show, you can do that by joining the Patreon page, patreon.com/thegingerrunner. For as little as $1 a month, you get the awesome perks back there. And I also want to remind you guys, one of the main perks right now for Patreon, and this is also kind of courtesy of Jamil, because Jamil, we use the same manufacturer, but brand new head wraps coming out. We have a Mount Rainier hand-drawn head wrap, as well as the standard Ginger Runner striped fare. Patreon supporters get first access to these. In fact,
I'm working hard, you guys.
Kim's been wrapping up hundreds of orders of these things right now. So Patreon supporters are getting these in droves. They will be available to the public. So do not feel obligated to join on Patreon if you do not want to, but they will be available to the public next week once we return.
And all the Patreon orders should be in the mail
before we go.
Yes.
And a note that we will not be doing Ginger Runner Live next Monday, because we will not be anywhere near Signal, because Barkley could potentially still be going on. We don't know when the race starts. No one does. But it could potentially be going on through Monday. So we're still going to be in the backcountry of Tennessee. Our hope is that we do get a chance to do Ginger Runner Live next week post the Barkley Marathons. If not next week, it will be the Monday after, because it will kind of depend on when we get back to Los Angeles, which could be Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on, of course, the race. So stand by. You'll be updated as soon as we know for next week's episode. And it would be great to get Jamil back on to talk about his experience. I'm sure it'll be quite an adventurous one. Are you nervous at all? Are you anxious at all? Do you ever get the anxiety associated with events like this, or are you just kind of excited to start?
I'm just nervous because of this rash. Other than that,
really?
I'm excited. Yeah.
So the rash is like your biggest concern at this point.
It is, yeah.
And is that hurting running at all? Like, is it because it makes it uncomfortable?
Well, I went on a run tonight, and it's been itching this whole show. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
I'm sorry, Jamil. Well, we'll make the post show quick with you, because
No.
you can just scratch during the whole.
I'm good. Let's make it go as long as we can.
Sweet. So that's it for the main show, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in live for Ginger Runner Live episode number 159. Kim, how many questions do you have for the post show? Because I feel like it's a lot.
I have a lot of questions.
Sweet.
Yes.
Awesome. So if you have not already, consider joining us on Patreon. If not, don't sweat it. We still will do free content forever on the YouTube page. It's just supported by the viewers. That is it for tonight's show. Jamil, please remind people where they can find you on YouTube, the multiple channels, on Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. Where can people find you and ask more questions?
YouTube, Air Viper Running, Run Steep, Get High, and Mountain Outpost. Me personally, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, all that, Jamil Coury, JamilCoury.
Do it. If you guys want great running content, Jamil is putting out top tier stuff. I highly encourage you guys to subscribe to his channels. The Run Steep Get High channel alone is great for the running footage, and all the other stuff is just hilarious content in general, even if you're not an ultra runner, because I know we have a lot of people here who are tuning in who maybe aren't ultra runners yet. Otherwise, we'll see you guys not next week, but we will have signal next week, so we'll update you guys with as much information as we can over the coming days. That's it. Get out there, guys. Train hard, race harder, and party the hardest. I know we will. We'll see you guys in the post show. Stick around if you can.
Ginger Runner.